Because we are sincere seekers of spiritual technology, we have this wonderful opportunity to access the knowledge which is unique. And in what sense is Bhagavad Gita knowledge unique? How different it is from what is the main characteristic that differentiates Bhagavad Gita from any material knowledge, any sort of material knowledge? Can we have some ideas? What is the one unique thing about Bhagavad Gita that is nowhere to be seen in material knowledge or information, any source of material knowledge? Any ideas?
It's spiritual knowledge. It's eternal.
It's eternal. It's eternal. It doesn't change with time. Any other ideas?
Received in battlefield. It's started in the battlefield.
It started in a place of stress, not in an AC room where we pay the tuition fee and then complain if the AC is not up a notch or due, right? So it's in a place where there is emergency. There's so much need. Both the seeker is desperate for this knowledge, not just to pass the exam or make some money. Yes, any other ideas? Yes, Prabhu.
Krishna is actually speaking and is visible, unlike the Mount Sinai, right? So we have Krishna, is referred to as the Supreme Personality. You actually see the personality. And the other feature is, unlike Moses, who's in a reverential position, Arjuna is actually using Krishna as a chariot driver. So there's this order that's coming from the servant, the master. And then the other unique aspect is that around 270, Arjuna, I'm bewildered. I'm a soul surrender. Please help me. So we're seeing this role of parallel trends, and then we see this role switching.
Yeah.
Master servant, and then master servant.
Beautiful. Everybody got that? It's such a beautiful point. That Krishna becomes subservient to Arjuna, who is an eternal servant of Krishna. But initially, that's how it looks like. And then when Arjuna gives up his ego and accepts that he's bewildered and wants the knowledge, he's ready to receive, he's at that humble position, and Krishna gives knowledge. Krishna doesn't open his mouth until Arjuna says that. He doesn't even open his mouth. Arjuna keeps on giving so many different reasons why not to do his duty. Right? That brings us to this topic that we have tonight. It's 18.41. So we're doing 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 41. Before we do that, 41 to 48. Okay.
There's one other thing too that's unique that you don't find equally. So you find Krishna exposes his universal form. And Arjuna is completely bewildered when he's actually allowed to see it.
Right.
And there'll be others that are on the battlefield. And those demigods that are watching, in the degree to their surrender, they have a limited purview.
Correct.
So there are many other points.
Right.
These stand out aside from the yoga, explanation of systems, and karma, all these things you do not find
Correct.
in other shastras or scriptures.
Correct.
So there's a ton of, we could go on and on and on.
Yeah. The
Just
whole
not-
class can be just about
Yes, the whole-
uniqueness of Bhagavad Gita.
Absolutely.
Right. But pertinent to what topic we're talking about today is one very unique aspect of Bhagavad Gita as a spiritual knowledge, is that we have so much technology, we've developed so much with AI, with LLMs today. All of that, if we take together, all of that gives us skills. All the material knowledge is about skills, development, solving problems or difficulties. There's one thing which is always missing in material knowledge, is that what to do when the problems and difficulties become crises and calamities. That's when whatever technology you have, how much ever advanced you may be, the mind gives up. Here we're talking about Arjuna. Arjuna is not an ordinary personality. Arjuna is highly, highly accomplished soldier. That person who can single-handedly destroy the whole Kaurava army is so weak-hearted that he cannot even move forward. He's losing all his power to his mind. So he has skills, but he has no will. And that's what Bhagavad Gita gives that. This is how Bhagavad Gita is so practical. Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna to, okay, you're not feeling well today. Let's take off today. We can have this battle some other time. Let's go to Boston Rath Yatra next weekend or Chicago Rath Yatra next weekend. We can figure this out later. Or go home and chant your rounds. Right? That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. It gives us, or gives a bewildered soul, purpose of life. So in that case, when you have the purpose, then all the skills suddenly become important. But if there is no purpose, the skills are useless. In crisis and calamity, we have no shelter. And the mind gives up and gives all kinds of reasonings. That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, is there are two parallel lanes that go on in Bhagavad Gita. One, Krishna is telling the direct devotional service. Manmana bhavan madabhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. All of these, or 12th chapter, 15th chapter, Bhakti Yoga, Purushottam Yoga. He's telling direct devotional service, direct bhakti. At the same time, he knows that conditioned souls of this Kali Yuga are not at that stage. So what he gives? He also gives indirect bhakti, meaning he tells, in your situation, in the conditioned state, how do you take steps up the ladder? Right in your situation, without changing anything outside that you're doing, change within. That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So we will start. Before that, let's sing some Prem Dhwani, some Mangala Charan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before we start the actual text, I seek blessings for all the Vaishnavas here. It's not my place to be sitting here. I should rather be sitting there. And elevated personalities here should enlighten us. I'm taking this as a service. And I know because we are Sajatiya, we are like-minded people. I know even if I do some mistakes, you will, okay, bacha hai, small child. We'll take care of this guy. Anything nice comes up, it's all coming from the Gurujanas. All the credit goes to the Gurujanas. So do we sing the verses? How do we usually do?
So since we have like a lot of verses, only one verse we can repeat everything we can cover.
Okay. So we are doing chapter 18, text number 41. Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Shudranam Cha Parantapa
Shudranam Cha Parantapa
Karmani Pravibhaktani
Karmani Pravibhaktani
Svabhava Prabhai Gunaihi.
Svabhava Prabhavaya Gunaihi.
Someone else wants to lead?
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Shudranam Cha Parantapa
Shudranam Cha Parantapa
Karmani Pravibhaktani
Karmani Pravibhaktani
Svabhava Prabhavaya Gunaihi.
Svabhava Prabhavai Gunaihi. One more from Mataji's. Anyone would like to?
Brahmana Chaksatri Visham
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Sudranam Cha Parantapa
Shudranam Cha Parantapa
Kamani Pradibhaktani
Karmani Pravibhaktani
Svabhava Prabhava Punahi.
Svabhava Prabhavai Gunaihi. Brahmana of the Brahmanas, Kshatriya,
Kshatriya,
the Kshatriyas,
Kshatriyas,
Visham,
Visham,
and the Vaishyas,
and the Vaishyas,
Shudranam,
Shudranam,
of the Shudras,
of the Shudras,
Cha,
Cha,
and Parantapa, O subduer of enemies, Karmani,
Karmani,
the activities,
activities,
Pravibhaktani, are divided, Subhavaha, their own nature, Prabhavaihi, born of, Gunaihi, by the modes of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of enemy. Should we do all the translations? What time do we end? Around 4. Okay. So maybe what we should do is, since 42, 43, 44, 45, they don't have any purport. So let's do translation of 46. Can someone read the translation of 46?
You mean purport or translation?
Just the translation.
46.
46.
By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work.
So this chapter, which is the last chapter of Bhagavad-gita, generally if you see any treatise, any book, the last chapter is conclusion. I'm a scientist. When I write articles, the last section is conclusion. What does that conclusion means? That whatever has been said before, now I'm concluding it, right? Which means that everything is now in this chapter. And the chapter is Sannyasa Yoga, perfection of renunciation. That's the chapter's name. And one of the most famous instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mahamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksheshami Mahasucha. What Krishna says, Mahasucha, do not lament. One of the first instructions in Bhagavad Gita in second chapter that Krishna gives is Gatasuna Gatasuncha Nanu Sochanti Panditaha. Nanu Sochanti Panditaha. Do not lament. Intelligent people do not lament. Bhagavad Gita instruction starts with do not lament, ends with do not lament. Right? But in this material world, we always lament. Actually, it is said that the suras, the demigods, that yoni of life, that purview, that platform is all about enjoyment. Danavas is all about fear and fighting. And Manavas is all about crying. That's why it said, Kalau Shudra Sambhavo. Kali Yuga, everybody is crying. That's the nature of this world. Why is it? Bhagavad Gita gives very unique perspective to that. And this 41 to 48 verses, this is, remember that this is in the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So it is not something very, actually even a single word of Bhagavad Gita is not to be taken lightly. Especially when we're talking about conclusion of this most unique spiritual scripture. We have to think, why would Krishna speak about these aspects of having to do your duty according to your nature, right? Krishna is, because we have already gone through Bhakti Yoga, 12th chapter, Rajavidya, 9th chapter, Purushottam Yoga, 15th chapter. Krishna has already told all the details. Like, Bhagavad Gita is like a sandwich. And the main part from 7 to 12 has given Bhakti Yoga in depth. And then again, after a few verses from this, Krishna is saying, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Give up all kinds of opinions, thought processes, perspectives that are coming from your own mind. And surrender unto me. But how do I surrender? Each individual person, how can me in this body, this Mukundalila, how can I, as a person, what's my direction? Right? So Krishna is giving this unique, personalized perspective to every living entity who might come in future through these verses. Right? Krishna has already said earlier in Gita, Chatur Varnya Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. The 4 Varnas I have created. So it is not, unfortunately, people of Indian descent, they know and understand that in India now, this particular Varna ashram system has been degraded to Jativad. Degraded to Jati means that which is born, you're born in, born with. So it is like saying, I'm son of a doctor, let me treat you. What do you do? Oh, I'm a carpenter. But my qualification is I'm a son of a doctor. Does that work? Cannot work, right? But a doctor cannot do carpentry. So uniqueness of one's abilities are, Krishna is saying in this, that these four varnas are coming from what is born from within, which is innate to the living entity. And that gives us a perspective, a path, inclination, and fulfillment in activities that we do if we follow those. And if we don't, what happens is whatever we do, there is no fulfillment, there is no happiness, because it is rasabhas. It doesn't, there's always battle between you as a person and what you're doing. So Krishna is giving what most of these motivational speakers nowadays talk about. Find your passion. How do I find it? Go do sampling. Have you heard of this? The sampling method. So a lot of motivational speakers, they speak about when you're young, you do sampling, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. Then you'll figure out what is right for you. Then what happens? Reality hits. I have to make money to raise family. I have to get into IT, even though I'm an artist, right? Then what happens? That at work, we're dissatisfied. We come back home, and we take out the anger on family. Family is dissatisfied. And we go back to work, we take the family stress at work. The boss is unhappy. When boss is unhappy, the stress increases. And what happens? You say, if I go back to family, there will be more drama. Let me go to friends. So you go to friends. What happens? Friends say, oh, you know what? I bought this new Tesla the other day. Do you wanna have a look? I got Tesla Model X Plaid. You're like, man, I came in my Corolla here. Have any shame? Right? So what happens is we are in this loop. We get stuck into this loop of material achievements and comparison, and it's a never-ending story. And then material life becomes so much burden. And then we think that, okay, let me do something spiritual. Let me start chanting. And then what happens? You start chanting, and then suddenly there is peace. This is so beautiful, right? First time, like I remember my first time entering a temple, a Hare Krishna temple. This was in Mumbai. And then if has anybody gone to Chowpatty temple? Have you seen the Chowpatty temple in Mumbai? You have, right? So it's right by a very busy street. So I took a local train, and local train of Mumbai, if anybody has experienced it, it is a free massage. Basically, you can do all kinds of different yogas, postures, because you cannot even stand straight. And you get free massage because people will hit you from the back, from the front, everywhere. And then when you don't want to get down, if you're in the wrong place, they'll take you down. And if you don't want to get into the train, if you're in a wrong place, they'll take you in. That's what happens. Association, effect of association. It's very obvious in Mumbai local trains. So I took a local train, got down at Mumbai Central, Grant Road station, walked by this very busy street. And a busy street in India doesn't just means the cars are passing by. Busy street in India means pa, pum, pa, pa, pum, pum. All kinds of horns are going on, and then somebody shouting, "Hey, you!" It's crazy. And there are two-wheelers passing in between the cars. There was one person one time, he was an atheist. And this atheist goes to India to find God, because he has heard God means India is the spiritual land. And if he thinks that if there is God, I should find in India of all places. Otherwise, my conclusion is God doesn't exist. So he goes to different places in India. He goes to Varanasi, he goes to Vrindavan, and he comes back. And when he comes back, he's like, I'm a believer of God. And people think, wow, he got so much knowledge in India. This person is transformed. So everybody comes to him like, what's the realization? Where do you see God? How do you know that God exists? He said, actually, when I went to India and I saw the traffic in India, how these people are driving and still everything is going on, there must be God present. That's my realization. Right? So, off that busy street, coming, go up the stairs, and I'm hearing, chick, 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 chick. I'm hearing that. And I step in, the first step into the temple hall, I see Srila Prabhupada on the left, and that's a murti, an idol, a deity of Srila Prabhupada. And it's like, wow, this person is so sublime. I'm just looking at him. I don't even realize that it's not a real person sitting there. And I feel like I'm in spiritual world. First time entering. Many devotees have this experience that when they come in contact first time, Krishna gives this trailer of spiritual world. How it will be when you will be in the spiritual world. Because Krishna loves us. So, even if you're not at that stage of perfection, Krishna gives you that trailer. So I got that trailer, right? Everything is about bliss. And then what happens? Start chanting. You start chanting 4 rounds, and you start chanting 8 rounds, and you start chanting 12 rounds, and then 16 rounds, and you're doing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Everything okay? Hare Hare. What happens is, all that spiritual bliss is gone. What happened? I'm chanting. Reality hits. So what happens? An analogy is given, is that when you start cleaning a room which has been cleaned for 30 years. When you enter a room that has not been cleaned for 30 years, it looks dirty, but not that dirty when you start cleaning it. Because what happens, all the settled down dust starts to come up. And that's what happens when we see people outside world, they're enjoying, they don't know what misery is or haven't experienced yet in this material world. But when you start chanting, you become aware of reality. What spiritual life does, makes you aware of reality. And you start seeing the anarthas. Without awareness, there cannot be next step But at that stage, people start feeling that, oh my God, what happened? I used to be a happy person and now I'm miserable. Started chanting. Should be the opposite way, right? But what is required at that stage is have patience. Tam titikshvasya bharata. Have patience and continue cleaning. Now, while we're doing that and having patience, continue cleaning, what are we supposed to do is what these 41 to 48 tells us. Is during the process of cleaning, when the anarthas are still there, when even when we are chanting the holy names, that Krishna himself is, we are associating with the Lord, the reservoir of pleasure, the all attractive person, and all we are thinking about is tomorrow I have a deadline. How I'm going to propose to this person, or how I'm going to finish my gulab jamun before somebody else claims it. All of these thoughts, all of these kind of thoughts are going through. Actually, it is said that one of the most productive time is chanting, because you get all of this thinking done. You're chanting on one side and you're like planning the day, planning the life. Because of that, what happens is chanting is not, it becomes a chore. I start, I finish, and I keep the beads aside, and I'm done for the day. I'm done with my spiritual life. It's like when we cook, right? After cooking, if you're making, say, sambar, you made sambar, and you put some corianders, leaves on the top, it's done. Spiritual life is not like coriander on top, right? It's the actual sambar. So it's not a compartment of our life. It is our life. Once you understand that, what happens is that each aspect of our material life, even, we start to see in the light that Krishna wants us to see. And because of that, what happens? We get the purpose of life. And then we know, see, what happens is, let's say Chandraprabhu, my dear friend, he is an amazing drum player. We just noticed that, right? And if I start comparing with him, all I will get is misery. I can never be Chandraprabhu. He is Chandraprabhu, right? Instead, if I focus on what Krishna has given me, what is my mood, what is my relationship, how am I looking at spiritual life, what gives me fulfillment in spiritual life, what makes me advance faster in spiritual life, what aspect of seva, what aspect of bhakti, what aspect of social life brings me near Krishna, that is unique to me. That's why Krishna is giving these 4 divisions, these 4 classes. This Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These are varnas, like Bhagavad-gita we just mentioned. These varnas are coming from Janma. Chaturvarnyam Maya Sushtam. It is Guna Karma, right? But what do we think? Janma Vibhagasha. Is it? Like, for example, I am born as Indian. Does that mean I am Indian? Or if somebody is American, does that mean that I am American? Those are the labels that we have put on ourselves, right? Who am I? What is my unique relationship with Krishna? How can I see myself coming near Krishna? Krishna gives us the path. He says that think this in terms of these 4 categories of people. What gives you the most fulfillment in your stage in your state of with dealing with these anarthas, in your dealing with these problems of this material world, with our conditioning, life after life. Even with that, we have born, because this, what's the verse says in translation 41? That wording is very important. In the translation, the wording is born of their own nature, which means that has Krishna imposed that upon us? No, Krishna has given us free will. And he's telling us that don't try to do others' work. Even if you're doing your work imperfectly, still do it. Because of that, what will happen is that even in your state of anartha and conditioning, you will have a level of fulfillment that will help you move forward. That's why Krishna didn't tell Arjuna to go home and do puja. He's a Kshatriya, he's supposed to fight. He tells it to Vigata Jwara, Uttishta Bharata. Give up lethargy and fight. Is he telling that to Mukundalila, give up lethargy and fight? And I'm taking a bow and outside looking for Kauravas? What does it mean for us? For us, he tells in this part that develop these Brahmanical qualities, but understand your nature. Is that if you are passionate about certain thing, dovetail that into the service of Krishna. Use the passion. Any activity when we do, there are 4 platforms at which we can do any activity. What are the 4 platforms that we can do any activity at? First is do the activity out of fear, right? If I don't finish this assignment, my boss is going to be upset with me. Or if I don't chant my 16 rounds, which I've promised to my guru, there'll be repercussions. So out of fear, I'm doing this. Not a very good platform to work with. Out of fear. Little bit better than that, next level is out of passion or desire. Right? Because I want Tesla, again, I'm using this Tesla example. If somebody doesn't like Tesla, we can use some other example. But if I have a strong desire to have a fancy car, or say I have this very old iPhone X, my desire is this, get a 15 Pro, man. It's time. What do? Start working towards that. My everything is now focused on 15 Pro, 15 Pro, 15 Pro, 15 Pro. That's my new mantra. But what happens because of that? Is there any guarantee that I'll get that? There's zero guarantee that I'll get that. So any activity which is based on desire, what happens? There's lamentation if I don't get it. And what happens if I get it? Greed. Greed develops, right? Because by the time I will be at the stage to get 15 Pro, this guy, Tim Cook, will get some other 17 by that time. He's like, man, now I have to go for 17. Right? So desires either lead to greed or anger if they're not fulfilled. They're fulfilled, lead to greed. So fear or desire or passion, these 2 platforms of activities are not so good, which means these are in mode of ignorance and passion. So what's the next level then? Duty. Out of duty, I am in this Manushya Janma. What am I supposed to do in Manushya Janma? What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said? Jivan sarthak kari paropakar. I'm in this body of human being, so I'm not anymore in bhoga yoni like the animals. Like you cannot expect a cow on the street or a dog to follow the lights. If it is green light, the dog will wait for green light and then cross the street. It's not going to happen, right? And you don't see a cop going behind a dog to give him ticket. It's not expected from a dog, but it's expected from a human being. So sense of duty is already at a platform of goodness. That out of sense of duty, out of sense of social responsibility, I'm doing certain things, right? And at that stage, then I can connect that with my particular state at which I am. What gives me more benefit for spiritual life? What gives me more realization? Like some people really like to read shastras and do puja and arati. And some people really like to manage big Rath Yatras. You tell that person, sit and read. It's like, no, I have so much seva to do. The person is gone. Because that comes natural. If it comes natural to you and making that person work harder, which is not natural, doesn't make that sense. But before we understand where my inclination is, we have to have some patience. So we need to have some patience, right? My Shiksha Guru Gaurang Prabhu, he gives this example that when he first joined the ashram, he was given seva in kitchen. He was made kitchen in charge, right? Gaurang Prabhu, he's a very scholarly person. If you have heard of his lectures, he's an IIT graduate, very premier institute from India. Very scholarly person, very shastrik. He's given seva in kitchen, rolling chapatis. A gold medalist is rolling chapatis. And then when he's doing that, a new brahmachari joins the ashram. And this new brahmachari is put to seva with Gaurang Prabhu. It's like, you have new buddy. You two manage, you do. So Gaurang Prabhu sees this, looks at this person. He's 6 feet tall, well built, strong person. He's like, okay, this person is good. Let him do rolling chapatis. So now the 6-foot person is now rolling chapatis in temple. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. This person, after a week of rolling chapatis, he comes to Gaurang Prabhu and he says, hey, what are you doing, man? I'm a great preacher from such and such village. When I speak Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, hundreds of people come. And here I'm rolling chapatis? What's going on? Gaurang Prabhu says, you're telling me I'm also rolling chapatis with you. So he says, no, I'm just trying to express my frustration. So he keeps on continuing the seva. Again, next week he comes and he starts crying. You guys don't understand my potential. I'm rolling chapatis here. After 1 month, this person comes with his bags and he says, I'm going. The Gaurang Prabhu says, where are you going? Like, I'm leaving. You people have not understood my potential. I'm a preacher and you're putting me in kitchen rolling chapatis. So he leaves. He leaves the ashram. 10 years after, Gaurang Prabhu is giving a class and he sees this person in the back. This person comes to talk to Gaurang Prabhu and he says, you know what? I left ashram and I got married. When I got married, my wife got back pain. Now I'm rolling chapatis at home. So, spiritual life is about patience. Sometimes we think something is me. We don't realize because we are so covered with our anarthas that we don't even realize what's my nature, what's my true nature. Right? When Krishna is telling here that do your dharma, swadharma, albeit imperfectly, do it. But in my conditioned state, I don't even know that. Right? That's why this is in 18th chapter, not in second chapter or third chapter. Right? It's building up to it. Meaning what? That one has to have patience and tolerance. Right? Because we started with this understanding that Bhagavad-gita gives us purpose of life. It gives us will. And when we add a skill to that will, then we are a strong team. So in cases of crisis and calamity, let's say, for example, if somebody's teenage son fails an exam, it's a problem. Or doesn't get into masters in a particular elite college, that's a problem, right? So what's the crisis? Because of that frustration, the son or daughter tries to commit suicide. That's a crisis. That's a calamity. No material knowledge will make you equipped to deal with that kind of calamity. That's what Bhagavad Gita gives us. It gives us an understanding how to deal with these calamities, how to go beyond the crisis, right? So having that patience and tolerance during our conditioned state, continuing on devotional service will automatically reveal us, even in our conditioned state. Will give us, will get, there's this game about treasure hunt. Have you heard about this treasure hunt game? There are clues on the way. You're looking for the treasure, there are clues on the way. Like that, in spiritual life, you get clues. Am I heading in the right direction or not? Like, for example, if I see Patit Pawan Prabhu coming from a distance, do I get happy and go towards him, or do I turn and go away? Right? That tells me my consciousness is that, do I have service attitude? Because I know he's going to give me seva, so I'm running away. That means what? I haven't been progressing in my spiritual life. So these are clues. One of the clue that how are you progressing in spiritual life is that one's desire to do seva increases. One's desire to get association of devotees increases. One's desire to study scriptures increases. And from that desire platform, one goes to the platform of duty. Is now I am supposed to do this. Without that, I am not me. Without my chanting of 16 rounds, I'm not Mukundalila. If I'm not following my 4 regulative principles, I'm not me. My identity gets connected with my spiritual responsibilities, right? And that is the platform of goodness. But do we stop there? Do we end there? Is it all in all? We go beyond. Because what is beyond duty is love. That you do out of love. Not just because I'm supposed to do it, or just because these responsibilities have become my habit or identity, but because I cannot live without it, oh Lord. I cannot live without chanting your holy names. I relish so much that 16 rounds is just the beginning. 17th round is when my chanting starts. Because now I'm doing it out of love, not out of sense of duty. It's one of the ways to understand that is how are we progressing in spiritual life, is that am I developing some kind of feelings for the Lord, for the process? Am I doing it with rasa, with mellow? Am I getting that level of fulfillment, that level of bliss There are these two words in Sanskrit, Sukha and Ananda. If you translate that in English, Sukh means happiness and Ananda means bliss. So what is spiritual life? Spiritual life is, and especially what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, the highest principle, what he has given us is the pathway from happiness to bliss. We don't stop at happiness. Ours is Anandamayo Bhyasa. You want not happiness, you want bliss. What's the difference? It's out of love. And it's ever increasing. It's not miserly. Doesn't stop. Never gets stale. It's ever fresh. So let's make that commitment to ourselves. Let's get that seriousness. Is that Krishna is so much talking to each and every one of us. In his concluding chapter, he's telling us, wherever you are, whatever your own nature is, do that. Eventually, you will be at platform of Sarva Dharman Parityaja. You'll get to that platform. But do that. So let's make that commitment to ourselves. Is that how can I become more serious in my spiritual life? How can I, whenever I chant, how can I do this a little bit better? When I read, how can I be a little more involved in this? Right? That's how Shanai, slowly will make progress. I think I'll stop here. Already went over time. If anybody wants to add something, Chandra Prabhu. Anyone else wants to add comments or questions? My teacher used to say, if there are no questions, which means that the class was so perfect. It was spotless, that everybody here has understood everything so perfectly that there is no room for questions. And that's certainly not the situation here, because the class isn't perfect. You guys may be perfect, right? But the other end of that is that nothing went in. The class was it was all blah 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 blah. Where is Prashad? Okay. Yes.
Just a comment, and on specifically what you just mentioned. I can only speak for me, but there was so much to digest, so much to process. And the other piece, as Bhakti Tirtha Swami would say, so much to apply. And so that's also the challenge. How can I take what I heard and then how do I apply it? So that's where I am at. It's nothing that I can add. I can't supersede that. But it was so nicely stated that I'm just thinking right now the meditation is application.
Correct.
And then unpacking some of the things and areas that, like you say, you run across a particular situation where you see where Krishna says, don't try to do someone else's service perfectly.
Exactly.
So you're just trying to see it's not about them, it's really about me and my application. And that's in essence in summation, that unique thing about the Bhagavad-gita, unlike other scriptures. I was doing the summary. That unique thing that we're seeing that you don't see elsewhere is that one thing about how do we go through those four processes, right? Identifying where we are and we had a conversation about not looking at anybody else, but looking at yourself. So I'm talking the process.
How do we know we are doing our duty or somebody else's duty?
Good question. And I think we little bit touched upon it, not much, is that in our state of anartha conditioning, we don't really know our inclination. And what has happened is, because of our conditioning, in the sense, for example, I'll give one example. My Shiksha Guru Gauram Prabhu gives this wonderful example. I like it very much. So He's studying in IIT, a premier institute of Indian Institute of Technology. People really struggle hard to get admission into that. Very, very difficult. Actually, statistically speaking, it is even difficult to get into IIT than to get into MIT in the US. So he had one friend, and his friend, tried to commit suicide. And why he tried to commit suicide? And by the way, he failed. You know why he failed? Because the rope with which he was trying to hang with the fan, ceiling fan, broke. And he survived. Sometimes duplicate things in the material world come to like there was this one guy who drank rat poison. He survived because it was a duplicate rat poison. Or somebody was lying on a train tracks. So I'm giving up, and the train was 6 hours late. So he gave up the idea. Right? So why this person? Why this person is committing suicide? So Gauram Prabhu goes and asks him, why are you doing this? He says, I'm a gold medalist, and this time I got a silver medal. And my mind made a big deal out of it, and I couldn't take it. One end, right? Other end was same Gauram. In the same class, there were some friends who failed in 3 or 4 subjects minimum. And what are they doing? Going everywhere and giving blessings to everyone. How are you guys doing? They're happily roaming around the campus. It's like, what's going on? This guy who got a silver medal is trying to commit suicide. And these people have failed so much, so many exams, and they're happy. So he goes and asks him, what is the secret of your happiness? The answer these people give is that it was our duty to get into the college, but it's college's duty to get us out of it. Why worry?
Good job.
So parallel is that when we enter spiritual practice, especially with mercy of Srila Prabhupada, one time Srila Prabhupada was asked this question. Srila Prabhupada was giving a class, and Prabhupada said that unless you're 100% pure, you cannot go back to spiritual world. And all these people were like morosed. So, oh man, how that's not gonna happen. So Prabhupada said, okay, 90% pure, you will go to spiritual world. Still there were like no enthusiasm. He said 80%, 70%, 60%. Some people were like little hopeful now, 60%. Okay, the passing marks are coming up. And then Srila Prabhupada said, just hold on to my dhoti and I'll take you back home. Right? Meaning, when we surrender to our Gurujanas, that level of surrender, when we develop, our Guru will show us the path. Meaning, the words, the instructions, the Vani of Guru. And for those who don't have a Guru yet, Srila Prabhupada is giving instructions directly in his purports. Prabhupada used to say the purports of all these scriptures that he has written, which, by the way, he wrote by waking up at midnight in the night to 3 a.m. He would do translations and write purports. Prabhupada used to say that those are my devotional ecstasies. So we get instructions directly from Prabhupada, right? So whatever then connects when we are reading, that's why we have to do, although our society is called International Society of Krishna Consciousness. What we do? International Society of Krishna Activities. All we do is activities, right? So, but if we do the same activity in spiritual life, if we do that consciously, meaning trying to understand what's giving me this spiritual bliss, what's making me more happy. Same, so that's the beauty of bhakti. Right? Bhakti There are so many variegatedness in bhakti, gives us so many ways to connect with Krishna, to connect with Radha, to connect with all the acharyas. So we read, we practice, we do sadhana, then we slowly understand that actually, you know what? I get fulfillment in spiritual life when I cook for Krishna. I feel the connection with Krishna when I do deity worship. I actually feel connection when I do book distribution. Different people are at different levels, but you start to see that. That's why Prabhupada has given us a perfect package. We just fit in wherever. Try to be a part, like Prabhupada was saying this morning. If you become a part of a system rather than trying to be an individual away from the system, what happens is the system would take us. We don't lose our identity, but we progress. Our aim now is to find where I fit in, what gives me the fulfillment, what makes me tick, what makes me click. And that's again, there are different sevas available all the time. There is no dearth of seva. There's one thing in ISKCON, there is no dearth of seva. You'll find seva everywhere you go. Try, and then once one will find eventually. And if one is really perplexed, then one should have such people in our lives, which are our Shiksha Guru or our Diksha Guru, whoever is senior to us, has seen, has progressed more than us, and is Sajatya, meaning has same mood as us. We go and talk to them. That what we cannot see, they can see, because they have uncovered more. They can see within us. And they can say, okay, you know what, Mukundalila, don't try to develop six packs. It's not you. Right? Or make your biceps. No, don't take into those routes. Do this instead. You will be more happy. So I take that advice. Anything else? Should we stop here?
His Grace Mukundalila Prabhuji ki
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय।
Let's thank Mukundalila